The galaxy was full of stories, and some stories were older than the stars themselves. The oldest one was about humans. Some said humans once ruled the stars with fire and iron. Others said they were monsters who left nothing but ruins. Children grew up hearing about them. Elders whispered their name like a curse, but nobody had seen a human in thousands of years. For most, humans were only a myth, a shadow in the past, something that did not matter anymore. The Dravak Dominion, the strongest empire of the galaxy, worked very hard to erase every piece of that myth. Their leaders told everyone that humans were only legends. There were no such creatures, the Dominion said again and again. The Dominion had ruled for centuries. Their fleets controlled the trade lanes. Their armies crushed any rebellion, and they wanted no one to believe in the idea of humans. If humans were real, they would be a threat, so it was easier to say they never existed. But deep in the galaxy, in the empty space near a dying star, a strange signal appeared. It was not like the usual trading beacons or war codes. This signal was weak, broken, but clear enough to make every listening post turn its attention. The Dominion first thought it was a ghost signal, just static, but when scholars studied the frequency, their faces grew pale. The words were written in an ancient language, one that should not exist anymore. Many aliens gathered in the council hall of the Dominion. They played the signal again and again. The alien words were strange, but at the very end of the signal, the translation device gave one word in a voice that was not alien at all. It was a human word, one simple name, Earth. The council chamber fell silent. Some laughed nervously. Some shook their heads. One shouted, "This is a trick, it must be a fake recording." But no one truly believed their own words. In the far edges of the galaxy, merchants began whispering. Pirates refused to travel near the dead star. Entire worlds started to fear the return of the myth. Old ruins, long forgotten, were searched again. And the same symbol appeared in each ruin, a circle with two lines crossing it. The ancient sign of humanity for centuries. It had been ignored as random marks. Now it burned in the minds of all who saw it. The Dravak Dominion sent scouts to investigate the dying star. Their orders were clear. Find the source and erase it. No proof must return to the galaxy. The scout ship entered the dark system. The star was faint, more a red ember than a sun. The planets around it were broken rocks. Nothing alive, nothing moving. But as the scout ship moved deeper, its sensors picked up something impossible. Floating in the darkness was a shape, enormous, metal, silent at first. The aliens thought it was an asteroid, but as their lights touched its surface, they saw markings, long lines, and strange writing. The hull was scarred, blackened by battles fought long ago. But even damaged, the ship looked powerful. It was not alien design, it was something older, something that should not exist anymore. It was a battleship, human-made. The alien crew stared at it, their captain whispered, "Impossible!" They scanned it, expecting dust and bones. But the scans showed power inside. The ship was not dead, it was sleeping. The Dominion captain grew afraid. He wanted to leave, but orders were orders, so he ordered the ship to fire a probe. The probe hit the human ship and bounced off. As if the hull was harder than stone, then the silence broke. The human battleship's lights came alive, slowly, one by one. Bright blue lights shone across its surface. Its engines glowed faintly. As if waking from a long dream, the scout crew panicked. Their sensors filled with data they could not understand. The human ship turned slightly, like an animal opening its eye, and then a signal was sent. The scout ship's speakers crackled. A voice spoke in the same old human language. The words were strange to alien ears, but the meaning was clear in every translation. It said, "We are here." The scout captain froze. He shouted for retreat, but it was already too late. Other ships appeared behind the first. Heavy shapes came out of hyperspace, one after another, at first 3, then 5, then 10. All of them were human battleships, all of them glowing with the same awakening light. The Dominion scouts fled as fast as they could, but no one in the galaxy could unhear the truth. The humans were not myths, they were real. They were back, and they had brought their warships with them. Panic spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. Worlds whispered in fear, some prepared to hide, some prepared to fight. The Dominion tried to control the news, but the truth had already escaped. The humans were returning, and no one knew if they came as saviors or as conquerors and deep in the dark system. The battleships waited silent, patient as hunters. They had slept for ages, but now, their eyes were open again. The galaxy had forgotten them, but humans had not forgotten the galaxy. Would you like me to continue with part 2, the first sight, in the same 800-word simple English style, keeping the suspense alive? Far from the busy trade lanes, the dying star system was quiet. The Dominion scouts had barely escaped after seeing the first battleship. Their reports spread like wildfire, but no one wanted to believe them. Rumors always traveled faster than facts. Yet in every council hall, in every market, the same question was whispered. If humans are real, what do they want? The Dominion tried to bury the news. They sent messages saying it was a false alarm, but fear was not so easy to erase. Even the strongest words could not hide the trembling in their voices. And in the shadows of that dead system, the truth was waiting. Days later, another ship entered the system. This one was not Dominion military, but a group of independent explorers. They wanted fame, fortune, and proof. If they returned with evidence of humans, they would become legends. They came with small ships, fragile things compared to Dominion cruisers, but their hearts were strong as they moved closer to the old star. Their sensors caught something huge. At first it was just a shadow, but soon it grew into shape. A ship, larger than cities, drifting with quiet power. Its metal skin was scarred but unbroken. Strange lights flickered on its hull like eyes half awake. One explorer whispered, "It cannot be." Another said, "This is not possible." But none turned back. Curiosity burned hotter than fear. They sent out a scan, expecting nothing. The result made them gasp. The ship was not empty. Its reactors were alive, its systems breathing like a sleeping beast. Then the silence broke. A deep hum filled the void. The human battleship shifted, moving just slightly, but enough to shake every alien heart. Its engines came to life, slow and steady, like a heartbeat returning after centuries. The explorers panicked. One shouted, "We must run." But another whispered, "Wait." The massive ship turned. Not fast, not threatening, but controlled, deliberate. Its lights grew brighter. Each alien felt as if the ship was looking at them. The moment was heavy, more than fear, more than awe. It felt like standing before something ancient, something that should not exist. Then came the message, not in alien tongue, but in the old human language, harsh, simple, strong. It filled the explorers' ears with words they could barely understand. Yet one word was clear, repeated 3 times. "Return, return." "Return." The explorers froze. Their captain felt his throat dry. He had heard old legends. He remembered stories told in whispers. That humans never forgot betrayal, he understood. These ships were not wandering ruins. They were soldiers returning to their posts. And then, the impossible happened. From hyperspace, more ships appeared. One, then another, until the sky above the broken star was filled. Dozens of massive warships shaped like blades and hammers. Their armor was dark, their engines bright. They took formation in silence, as if they had trained for this very moment. The explorers watched in terror and wonder. Never had they seen such order, such power. Not even the Dominion fleets moved so perfectly. Each battleship turned and aligned, forming a wall of steel and light. It was not random, it was military precision. One explorer began to weep. He whispered, "The myths are real. They are here." The Dominion, furious at losing control, sent their own fleet to destroy the humans before fear spread too far. 30 ships arrived, sleek and armed. Dominion commanders believed their weapons would crush the old human relics. They thought the humans were only shadows of the past. The battle began without warning. The Dominion fired first, great beams of energy lashing out into the dark. The human ships did not dodge, they did not scatter. They simply raised their shields. The beams struck and vanished. Like stones thrown into the ocean, then the humans answered. A single ship fired. One blast clean and sharp. The Dominion flagship vanished in a ball of fire. The rest of the fleet broke formation in panic. They tried to flee, but the humans moved like predators. Precise, controlled, unstoppable. In less than 10 minutes, the Dominion fleet was gone. Nothing left but drifting wreckage. The explorers saw it all. Their small ship hid behind rocks. Silent and unseen, their captain whispered, "They do not fight like us, they do not fight like the Dominion. They fight like legends." The human fleet did not chase survivors, they did not roar in victory. They simply returned to formation, silent, waiting. Like sentinels from another age across the galaxy, the story spread faster than light. Every world heard the same tale. The humans had returned. Not weak, not broken, but strong. The Dominion tried to deny it, but fragments of the destroyed fleet told the truth. Fear became respect, respect became terror. The galaxy had forgotten humans, but humans had not forgotten the galaxy. And now their battleships stood in the dark, silent and patient, waiting for the next move. Some said they were here to conquer. Some said they had come for revenge. Others whispered something even more dangerous. They said the humans had come to protect, but no one truly knew the answer. All they knew was this: the myths were alive, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Would you like me to continue part 3? The awakening fleet, also in 800 words, keeping the tension and mystery rising. The galaxy was holding its breath. Every race, every empire, every wandering trader spoke of the same thing. The humans, the forgotten myth, had returned. The explorers who had seen the awakening ships told their story in trembling voices. And even those who thought it was a lie could not ignore the wreckage of the Dominion fleet drifting in the void. Proof floated among the stars, burned and broken by weapons no alien mind could understand. On the central world of the Dominion, the High Council argued day and night. Some demanded war. "We must crush them before they grow stronger," they shouted. Others begged for silence. "Do not wake the storm," they whispered. But no voice could hide the fear in their eyes. The Council knew the truth. The Dominion had ruled unchallenged for centuries. But against humans, their fleets had fallen like dry leaves in fire. The humans did not speak again. Their battleships simply held position in the dead system, silent, waiting like statues of war. Yet their silence was worse than any threat, for silence meant planning. Silence meant patience across the galaxy. Small nations debated in secret. Old stories rose from the ashes of memory. On desert worlds, carved stones told of human warriors who had defended weaker races. On ocean planets, songs spoke of human captains who gave their lives to save strangers. The myths had always been both fear and hope. Now they felt real. The galaxy did not know if humans had returned as protectors or executioners. The Dominion sent another fleet, larger than before, but this time they did not fire. Instead, they attempted to speak. They sent signals in 100 languages. Desperate to open dialogue, the humans did not respond. The warships remained still, shields humming softly like the breath of sleeping giants. Days turned to weeks, and then one moment changed everything. The largest of the human battleships moved, slowly, with steady grace. It drifted forward and broke formation. Its engines lit brighter, casting blue fire across the dead rocks of the system. The Dominion fleet braced for attack. Weapons charged, alarms blared. But the human ship did not fire. Instead, it released a signal. Not a weapon, but a message. Every receiver, every ship, every station in range captured it. The voice was deep, old, heavy with authority. The words were in the human tongue, but translation devices worked without error. The message was simple. Only 3 words: "We have returned." The galaxy shivered. No more guessing, no more whispers. The humans themselves had spoken. The Dominion panicked. Their leaders demanded immediate war. Their pride could not allow old ghosts to rise. Yet the soldiers remembered the battle. They remembered how one human ship had destroyed their strongest flagship with a single strike. To them, war was not courage, it was suicide. The smaller nations watched closely. Many had lived under Dominion control for centuries. Oppressed and taxed, they had dreamed of freedom but dared not fight. Now they whispered, "If the humans stand against the Dominion, perhaps we are not slaves forever." But not all whispers were hopeful. Some feared the humans more than the Dominion. If they destroyed the Dominion fleet so easily, what would they do to us? In the dead system, the fleet of humans began to awaken further. Ship by ship, their systems came alive. Not just power, but weapons, engines, shields. Every battleship moved into new formation. Tighter, sharper, more precise. It was a fleet preparing for war. The Dominion Council watched from afar, and one of their generals said, "They are waiting. They are waiting for us to make the mistake." And then something even stranger happened. Another signal emerged from the human ships. This time it was not a message but a map, a star map, projected into every listening system. At the center was a single glowing world. A planet long believed dead, burned in ancient wars. The name appeared in bold human script. Earth, the galaxy erupted. Could it be true? The birthplace of the myth still existed? Or had the humans built something new in its ashes? No one knew, but the signal was clear. The humans were calling, they wanted the galaxy to remember. The Dominion could not allow this. They declared Earth a forbidden name. They banned all discussion, but the more they tried to hide it, the stronger the whispers grew. Traders began speaking the name in markets. Children repeated it like a prayer. The more the Dominion silenced, the louder the galaxy believed, and among the stars, the human fleet grew restless. More ships began arriving. Not from hyperspace lanes, but from hidden gates, secret paths that no alien had ever known. It was as if the humans had never truly vanished. They had been waiting in the dark, preparing. Explorers reported new sightings, human cruisers near mining colonies, silent watchers in asteroid belts. Their ships never fired, never spoke, only observed. But their presence was enough to shake entire systems. The Dominion prepared their greatest weapon, a massive fleet larger than anything ever seen. Tens of thousands of ships gathered. Forming a wall of steel and firepower, their leaders promised victory. "We will erase the myth forever," they shouted. But deep in their hearts, even the bravest knew the truth. Numbers meant nothing against legends, and in the dead system, the human commander finally gave a second message, short, simple, undeniable. The translation spread like wildfire across the stars. It said, "Justice comes." The galaxy froze. For some it was hope, for others it was doom. But for all, it was the beginning. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were not here to explain. They were here for justice, and justice meant war. Would you like me to continue with part 4? The first clash. The first real battle in full detail, showing the terrifying power of human warships. Also in 800 words, the galaxy had waited in fear. But now the waiting was over. The Dominion, swollen with pride and burning with anger, had gathered its largest fleet in history. 10,000 ships formed a wall of steel. Stretching from one side of the stars to the other, their commanders shouted with confidence, promising glory, promising victory. They called the humans relics, old shadows armed with ancient metal. They told their soldiers, "We will show the galaxy that myths cannot defeat us." But deep inside every alien heart there was doubt. The first battle had been too fast, too brutal. The wreckage of Dominion cruisers still floated in the dark as silent witnesses. The memory of human firepower haunted every pilot. And still the Dominion charged forward. The human fleet waited. They did not rush, did not scatter, did not answer the insults shouted across the comms. They stood in perfect formation, warships like mountains in the void, unmoving. Their silence was louder than any threat. Their stillness was terrifying. The Dominion opened fire. Beams of plasma, storms of missiles, and waves of energy tore through the empty space. The sky turned white with destruction. For a moment, it looked as if the humans would be drowned in fire. But when the light faded, the human fleet remained. Shields shimmered, glowing faintly blue, and not a single ship had fallen. The humans responded with one shot, just one. A single beam of pure energy burst from the largest battleship. It cut across the void like a blade of light. The Dominion's command ship, massive, armed with thousands of cannons, vanished in silence. No explosion, no debris, just a sudden hole where the flagship had been. The Dominion fleet trembled. Still, their commanders forced them forward. Thousands of ships charged. But the humans moved like predators. Their formations shifted with perfect precision. Every turn, every strike was coordinated. They fought not like machines, but like warriors who had trained for eternity. Human weapons struck with terrifying accuracy. A single volley destroyed entire squadrons. Missiles screamed across space, each one finding its target without fail. Alien shields cracked like glass. Dominion ships burst into fireballs. One after another, the Dominion had numbers, but numbers meant nothing. Their ships crashed into human lines like waves against stone, and every wave broke. One alien pilot screamed into the comms, "They are not ships, they are executioners." Another shouted, "This is not war, this is slaughter." Still the battle raged. Hours turned to minutes. Dominion reinforcements poured in, but they only added to the graveyard. The humans moved without hesitation, without mercy, yet without cruelty. They did not laugh, they did not taunt, they simply destroyed, precise and calm. Then came the moment that froze the galaxy forever. The Dominion unleashed their secret weapon, a massive supercannon mounted on a colossal carrier. The weapon was said to break moons in half. It fired with a scream that shook space itself. The beam shot forward, tearing through darkness, striking a human ship head-on. Every eye watched, every heart stopped. For the first time, a human battleship was hit. The light burned bright, but when the fire cleared, the human ship was still there, scarred but alive. Its shields had bent but not broken. Slowly its cannons turned, aiming at the massive Dominion carrier. With a single blast, the carrier was gone. Erased from existence, the galaxy understood then. The humans were not equals in war. They were beyond war. They were gods of battle. The Dominion fleet broke. Commanders screamed for retreat. Soldiers abandoned formation. Ships scattered in every direction. But the humans did not chase. They allowed survivors to flee. They made no attempt to finish the slaughter. Instead, they sent a message. It spread to every surviving Dominion ship, to every listening post, to every trembling world. The voice was calm, deep, unshaken. It said, "We do not conquer. We avenge." The survivors carried that message across the stars. Whole worlds repeated it in whispers. Smaller nations, long oppressed by the Dominion, felt a strange fire in their hearts. For the first time in centuries, they believed in hope. If the humans had returned for vengeance, perhaps that vengeance was not only for themselves, perhaps it was for all. But in the Dominion Council chambers, fear turned to fury. Their leaders refused to admit weakness. "We cannot bow to ghosts," they roared. "We will build greater weapons. We will erase them." Yet their voices shook, and even they knew their lies. The galaxy was changing. A new storm had come, one that could not be silenced. The humans had fought their first true battle, and the galaxy had seen the truth with its own eyes. They were not myths, they were not shadows, they were warriors. And they had returned, and somewhere deep in the dark, beyond the battlefields, more human ships stirred, fleets that had not yet revealed themselves, armadas hidden for centuries, waiting for the signal. The war had only just begun. Would you like me to carry this momentum into Part 5? The Lost History, revealing the secret past of humanity and why they vanished. Also in 800 words. For generations, the galaxy had carried fragments of a puzzle. Stories carved into stone, songs whispered in caves, ruins older than empires. They had always spoken of humans. But the truth was buried, twisted by time and silence. Now that the battleships had returned, scholars and wanderers began searching again. They wanted answers. They wanted to know why humans had vanished. On the neutral world of Tyrelis, far from Dominion eyes, a council of historians gathered. They opened archives sealed for centuries, scrolls made of crystal, tablets etched with fire. They compared what each race remembered, and piece by piece a story began to form. It was not the story the Dominion had taught. It was not the lie of humans never existed. It was something far darker. Long ago, before the Dominion rose, humans had indeed walked among the stars. They were explorers first, then warriors, then builders of empires. Their fleets were vast, their technology unmatched. But unlike the Dominion, they did not rule with chains. They made alliances. They protected small worlds. They fought when they had to. But they never demanded worship. To some, they were guardians. To others, they were a storm too powerful to control. The Dravak Dominion had once been small, a minor species living in shadows. They envied humans. They feared them. And in their fear, they plotted with secret allies. They built weapons designed not for battle, but for betrayal. A great war erupted, not started by humans, but forced upon them. The archives showed burning worlds, fleets torn apart, cities swallowed by fire. Yet humans did not fall in open combat. Their ships were too strong, their tactics too sharp. What destroyed them was treachery. The Dominion poisoned their supply lines, shattered their alliances with lies, turned friend against friend, and when humans fought back, they found themselves alone against the galaxy, at last. In the records of an insectoid species long thought extinct, the final piece was found. It spoke of a human council, a desperate choice. The humans had seen their fate. They knew betrayal had cut too deep. They could win battles, but not the war. So they chose to vanish. They hid their greatest fleets, sealed away their people, placed themselves in slumber. They left behind only whispers and the warning, "We will return when the stars call us." The historians trembled. The galaxy had forgotten the betrayal, but the humans had not. Their return was not conquest, it was justice. And justice meant the Dominion would pay. Meanwhile, in the present, the human fleets were growing. More ships arrived each week. Not only old battleships, but newer vessels, sleek and silent as if waiting in secret docks for centuries. The galaxy realized with dread that the first ships were not the strongest. They were only the beginning. Among the smaller nations, rebellion began to stir. On worlds where the Dominion had ruled with cruelty, people painted the old human symbol on their walls. A circle crossed by two lines, they whispered the word Earth. They waited for the myth to walk among them again. The Dominion grew desperate. Their propaganda shouted louder, calling humans demons, claiming they would burn every world. But the more they shouted, the less people believed. The Dominion had been the master of lies, but the humans had returned with truth. Truth in the form of wrecked Dominion fleets. Truth in the form of survivors who spoke of a calm voice saying, "We do not conquer, we avenge on one forgotten moon." An explorer stumbled into a chamber sealed in stone. Inside lay machines older than memory, humming with faint power. At the center was a cryopod, and inside the pod was not a corpse, but a living human, frozen in time. When the pod was opened, the human awoke with a gasp. His eyes burned with fire, and his first words were simple. How long? The galaxy began to understand. Humans had not died. They had slept, waiting for the day when justice was needed. And that day had come. The Dominion Council panicked. They knew the old betrayal would be uncovered. They feared the galaxy learning the truth. If smaller nations discovered that it was the Dominion who betrayed humanity, their empire would shatter. And so, they did what they always did. They plotted more lies. They sent assassins to silence scholars. They burned archives, but it was too late. The story had escaped. The truth was alive in secret gatherings. Alien leaders debated. Some wanted to join the humans, believing they would bring freedom. Others feared them, believing they would bring fire. Yet all agreed on one thing. The galaxy stood on the edge of something greater than war. It stood on the edge of reckoning, and in the cold void, the human commander gave a new message. His voice spread across the stars, carried on waves of light. It said, "We remember." The word struck harder than any weapon. For the Dominion, it was a death sentence. For the small nations, it was hope. For the galaxy, it was a reminder. Myths had become memory. Memory had become reality. And reality was marching with steel and fire. The past was no longer hidden. The lost history was awake. And now the galaxy knew why humans had returned. They had come to finish what betrayal had begun. Would you like me to move into Part 6? The war expands. The galaxy begins to split. Rebellions rise, Dominion calls for allies, and humans reveal even greater fleets in 800 words, keeping the suspense and scale rising. The galaxy no longer slept. The return of humans had shaken every star. Their fleets multiplied like shadows pulling free from the dark. One system after another reported sightings. First one battleship, then entire squadrons. They appeared near mining colonies, at trade hubs in deep uncharted voids, always silent, always watching. The Dominion had declared them enemies. But fear had spread far faster than orders. Small nations began to stir. Worlds that had bent under Dominion taxes and chains now painted the human symbol on their walls. Children sang songs of the myth guardians. Merchants carried secret maps marked with the word Earth. The legend had become a fire, and that fire was spreading. The Dominion struck back the only way they knew. They unleashed their propaganda, flooding every world with messages. "The humans are destroyers," they cried. "They will enslave you. They will burn your homes." But their lies no longer worked. Too many had seen human battleships crush Dominion fleets without attacking innocent colonies. Too many had heard the calm voice of the humans say, "We do not conquer, we avenge." The galaxy began to divide. Some leaders, desperate for freedom, sent secret envoys to the humans. They begged for alliance. They offered resources, ships, knowledge. But the humans refused to meet them directly. Their fleets did not answer envoys. They did not bargain. They only observed. They moved like judges, not diplomats. The Dominion gathered allies of their own. They promised power to those who joined them, promised wealth, promised safety. Dozens of frightened species bent the knee. Building the largest war coalition in history, a grand armada said to be 10 times greater than the human fleet. In every Dominion broadcast, their leaders roared, "We are united. We will crush the ghosts of the past, but beneath the surface." Cracks spread, whole populations began to riot. Soldiers deserted, some Dominion ships fled mid-battle, choosing exile over certain death. The empire that once felt eternal now seemed brittle. Then the humans revealed something that froze the galaxy's blood. Until now, only their old battleships had been seen. Scarred giants from another age. But in a system near the blue star of Karis, something new appeared. A ship larger than any the galaxy had ever known. Longer than cities, darker than night. Its hull shimmered with strange energy. Its engines pulsed like a living heart. The Dominion scouts who saw it named it the Super Battleship, for it dwarfed even their greatest carriers. When it moved, it carried the silence of the grave. When it turned, whole fleets felt small. Whispers spread quickly. If this is only one of their hidden weapons, how many more lie waiting? The Dominion panicked. They called for all-out war. Armies were drafted, fleets expanded, resources ripped from enslaved colonies. They prepared to throw the entire galaxy into the fire. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled not under Dominion rule, but under the shadow of what humans might do next. And then came the sparks on the world of Reese. Dominion soldiers tried to crush a rebellion. But before they could fire, human ships appeared in orbit. Their cannons did not strike the cities. Instead, they aimed only at Dominion strongholds. In a matter of minutes, the Dominion garrisons were ash, and the human ships vanished again. The people of Reese shouted in the streets, "The myths are our protectors." Other worlds followed. Rebellions rose like storms. Some won because humans appeared to shield them. Others rose simply because the Dominion could no longer scare them into silence. The Dominion Council was enraged. Their leaders screamed that the humans were puppeteers, controlling rebellions, but deep inside they feared the truth. The humans did not need to command. The very idea of their return was enough to break the Dominion's chains. Soon the galaxy was no longer one war. It was many wars, civil wars, uprisings, betrayals. Armadas turned on each other. The Dominion had wanted unity, but they had sown chaos, and through it all, the humans moved like ghosts, striking only when needed, never explaining, never claiming. Some races began to worship them openly, calling them the forgotten guardians. Others feared them, calling them the silent judges. But all agreed on one thing: the galaxy's balance of power was broken. The climax came when the super battleship revealed its strength. A Dominion fleet of 2,000 ships cornered it in the Kara system. They attacked with all their fire. Storms of missiles, beams that could split moons. The human giant absorbed it all. Its shields flared like burning suns. Then, with a single volley, it erased half the Dominion fleet. One strike, thousands of lives gone. The survivors fled, carrying terror with them. They whispered that the humans had weapons not even visible. Weapons that bent physics itself. Weapons that no alien mind could understand. The galaxy realized something even worse than fear. The humans were not only stronger than the Dominion, they were smarter. They had waited for centuries. They had prepared while the galaxy slept, and now they were not just returning. They were winning. The Dominion, desperate, announced their final move. They called all their fleets, all their soldiers, all their resources to one place, their homeworld, Dominion Prime. There they would build their final fortress, a shielded planet, a weapon world. And they declared, if the humans want justice, they will come here. They will come into the heart of the Dominion. And the humans answered, not with words but with movement. Their fleets began to gather, not just in the dead system, but across the stars, thousands of ships, old and new, converging. They were coming. The galaxy held its breath once more, knowing what came next was not just a battle. It was the war to decide who ruled the stars. Would you like me to carry this fire into Part 7, the Siege of Dominion Prime? The largest battle yet, with planet-killer weapons and humans revealing their oldest secrets, in 800 words? The galaxy turned its eyes toward one star, the seat of Dominion power, Dominion Prime. For centuries the planet had been untouchable, a fortress world wrapped in rings of steel, armed with planetary shields that glowed like suns. Beneath its black towers sat the council that ruled billions. They had crushed rebellions, broken empires, and silenced every threat, but never had they faced the return of humanity. Now the humans were coming. The Dominion tried to show strength. They broadcast images of their vast fleet, a swarm of ships so dense it looked like a wall of fire in space. Tens of thousands of warships, carriers, cruisers, dreadnoughts, all pointed outward, waiting for the myth fleet. Let the ghosts come, Dominion leaders said. We will bury them here. Their voices were loud, but their eyes were not steady. In every corner of the galaxy, people held their breath. Some prayed for the Dominion to fall, others feared what would replace it. But all knew this battle would decide the future of the stars. And then the humans arrived. They did not rush, they came like a tide, slow but unstoppable. From hyperspace, hundreds of ships poured into the system, then thousands. At their center loomed the super battleship, its hull alive with glowing lines of power. Beside it flew dozens of other giants, each one strong enough to lead a fleet. Together they formed a formation so tight and perfect it looked like a single blade cutting through the void. The Dominion did not wait. The order was given and the sky erupted. Beams, missiles, plasma storms, weapons beyond counting. Everything the Dominion had built in centuries of war fired at once. The night turned white with destruction. For a moment, it seemed no force could survive such fury. But when the light faded, the humans remained. Their shields shimmered, cracked but held. Then the humans answered. The super battleship fired one blast, and a Dominion carrier miles long, filled with soldiers, vanished without even an explosion. Just erased from existence, the rest of the human fleet moved as one. Their cannons fired in silence. Their missiles streaked like falling stars. Dominion ships burst apart like fireworks. Still, the Dominion had numbers. They pressed forward, their commanders screamed orders. Thousands of ships swarmed around the humans, pouring fire from every angle, but the humans shifted formation. Their lines bent and curved like a living creature. Every strike met a counterstrike. Every Dominion assault collapsed into chaos. And then the ground shook. From the surface of Dominion Prime itself, a weapon rose, the planet's ultimate defense. A colossal cannon built into its crust. Its barrel stretched for miles, glowing with energy drawn from the planet's core. It was a planet killer, meant to tear moons apart. Now it aimed at the super battleship the weapon fired. A beam wider than cities cut across the void. It struck the human flagship full force. The galaxy trembled. Dominion soldiers roared in victory, believing they had won, believing the humans had finally fallen. But when the light cleared, the super battleship was still there. Its hull scarred, its shields dim but alive. The ship turned, and for the first time revealed its true weapon. From its sides unfolded vast structures, wings of energy, plates of glowing metal. They spun, gathered light, and then unleashed it. A storm of power greater than the Dominion cannon itself. The beam tore across space, striking Dominion Prime's planetary shields. The shields shattered. A soundless scream echoed across the stars as the unbreakable defenses fell. The Dominion's fortress world was exposed. The human fleet pressed forward. They did not fire on cities, they did not burn civilians. Their weapons targeted only the towers. The cannons, the war machines, one by one. Dominion defenses crumbled. Entire fortresses collapsed under precise strikes. On the planet below, people looked up and saw fire raining from the sky. But not on them. On their oppressors, on the black towers that had enslaved them for generations. Some wept, some cheered, some fell to their knees. Whispering the word humans, the Dominion Council panicked. Their leaders screamed at one another. Some demanded surrender. Others demanded the use of forbidden weapons. But their words no longer mattered, for the humans had come not for debate, but for judgment. Yet in the midst of destruction, the Dominion unleashed their last horror. Deep in their hidden vaults they had built a weapon of despair. A fleet of automated drones armed with self-detonating cores. Machines with no fear, no surrender. They poured into the sky like a swarm of locusts, crashing into human ships, exploding with fire bright enough to blind sensors. For a moment the humans staggered. Their shields flared, ships burned, even legends could bleed. The Dominion roared in desperate hope. We can still win. But then the humans adapted. Their formations shifted again, faster, sharper. Their weapons changed frequency, cutting through the drones like knives through glass. The swarm died as quickly as it had risen, and silence returned in the heart of the human flagship. A voice spoke again, carried across every channel. The words were steady, calm, filled with finality. The age of lies ends today. The Dominion fleet broke. Ships fled in all directions. Commanders abandoned their posts. Soldiers cast down their weapons. Dominion Prime, the eternal fortress, was falling. The galaxy watched in awe. Humanity had not just returned. They had torn down the throne of their betrayers. The myths were no longer whispers. They were fire. They were war. They were justice, and as the Dominion fell, the galaxy realized something far greater. If this was only the first war of humanity's return, what storms were still to come? Would you like me to continue into Part 8, the return of humanity, the climax and resolution, where humans decide the fate of the galaxy and reveal one final twist, in 800 words? The smoke of battle still lingered over Dominion Prime. Broken fleets drifted like bones in the void. Towers that once stretched into the sky lay in ruins. The once mighty empire that had ruled for centuries was shattered. Its leaders either dead, fled, or begging for mercy. The galaxy watched in stunned silence, unable to believe what had happened. Humanity, long thought to be a myth, had returned and broken the unbreakable. Across the stars, messages flew faster than light. Worlds once enslaved by the Dominion rose up. Some tore down statues of their masters. Others painted the human symbol on their walls, a circle crossed by two lines. It became more than a mark, it became a banner of freedom. The oppressed no longer whispered. They shouted, "The humans are real. The humans have freed us." But in the void above Dominion Prime, the human fleet did not celebrate. They did not chant. They did not raise their voices. They stood in perfect silence, warships glowing faintly against the burning planet below. For humans did not return to conquer. They had returned to finish something older, something heavier. On the surface of Dominion Prime, the last council chamber cracked open. A human strike team descended from orbit, armored figures stepping through smoke and ash. Dominion soldiers, once proud and cruel, dropped their weapons and fled. The human leader entered the chamber. His voice was calm. "Your empire is finished." The surviving counselors trembled. "What do you want?" One whispered. The human's eyes burned like stars. "Justice," he said simply. "The humans did not execute them. They did not enslave them instead. They broadcast the trial across the galaxy. In every market, on every world, people watched as the Dominion Council confessed to the ancient betrayal. They admitted to poisoning alliances, to turning the galaxy against humanity, to erasing history with fire and lies." The galaxy gasped. The myth was truth. Humanity had not vanished in weakness. They had been betrayed when the trial ended. The human commander gave a message to all. His words were slow, steady, impossible to ignore. "We are not here to rule. We are not here to build empires. We are here to protect and to remember. Never again will lies bury the truth. Never again will betrayal be rewarded. The galaxy will be free, but freedom must be defended. And we will be watching." The message shook the stars. For the first time in history, the Dominion was gone, and no empire rose to take its place. Instead, a new age began, not ruled by fear, but shadowed by the silent presence of humanity. Human fleets spread across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as watchers. They stationed ships near vulnerable worlds. They patrolled trade routes once stolen by pirates. Wherever injustice burned, human warships appeared. They never asked for tribute. They never claimed planets. They simply destroyed the chains of the oppressors, then vanished again. Some feared them, whispering that humans were too powerful, too silent, too unknowable. Others worshipped them, calling them the guardians of the stars. For most, they were a riddle, saviors with fire in their hands. But the humans had not forgotten their own loss. In hidden systems, entire colonies of humans awoke from cryosleep. Billions of men, women, and children. They stepped into a galaxy that had once betrayed them. They did not come as victims, they came as a people reborn. They rebuilt their cities, reforged their alliances, and taught their children the old promise. Never again shall we fall to lies. Yet even as peace spread, something darker stirred one night. In the command chamber of the super battleship, the human leader received a signal. It was faint, older than even their oldest codes. It came not from this galaxy, but from beyond. The message was simple, chilling, and written in the same ancient human tongue. It said, "We are not the only ones who remembered." The human commander stood in silence, his fleet around him like a sleeping storm. The galaxy thought the war was over. But he knew better. Humanity had returned, yes, but so too had something else. Perhaps enemies older than even betrayal. Perhaps rivals waiting across the void. The galaxy was free for now. But freedom was fragile, humanity would defend it. Yet in the dark between galaxies, new eyes were watching. The myth had become reality. The protectors had returned. But the story was not ending, it was only beginning. And as the human fleet turned from Dominion Prime, engines glowing like suns, the galaxy trembled. Some in fear, some in awe, all in wonder, for they knew one truth that would echo through time. The humans were back, and the stars would never be the same again.